Bosh, and we're in. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. This is the Construction Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Dean Barton, and today's topic is all about an opportunity that I think is brewing. It's an opportunity of buying businesses because the statistics are on your side. As a business owner, you've always got to be looking ahead and thinking, right, how can you grow a business? Because one, you can grow a business just by doing more of what you're doing. You're growing upwards of just doing more of what you're doing, whatever trade you're in, whatever niche you're in within the construction industry. You can just keep doing more of what you're doing. Or you can grow sideways and buy in. And I think the opportunities there brewing, because I did a mastermind day last week with a group of guys and clients that I work with and help with and consult on their businesses. And one of the things I always like to do is look at the actual statistics. And one of them, which is the topic of this episode, is that 39% of SME business owners are owned by what's called the baby boomer generation, which basically means the old people. The people in the category of 50 to 75 years old. Nearly 40% of those businesses are owned by people in that age category. Now, what does that create? That creates an opportunity of people ultimately one day, they've got to get out of that business. At some point, everyone's got to hang up their boots, hand the business over and, move it forward. And what we're in, a time that's quite unique, is that post-war, everyone started having babies and there was a lot of 55, 70-year-olds. Now we've got today, in today's world, 2023, people are having a lot more kids back then. Whereas now, this generation, our generation, people are having kids later. So we've got a perfect storm of a lot of old people in the market with businesses they want to sell and they want to get rid of. But then you've equally got the other side of the market and the facts of today, where there's less young people coming into the industry and there's less people running businesses now in our demographic, the 30 to 40-year-olds, which makes for what I believe is a really good sweet spot of bolting in other businesses into your operation or buying new businesses and doing creative deals where you can basically, grow your business quite quickly overnight. There are thousands and thousands of businesses in the UK that go unsold. Some of them don't go on the market because a lot of business owners don't know what to do with that business. And there is a value to every business. Doesn't matter how big or small it is, there is a value at some point. So what I want to do in this episode is talk about the ideal businesses for you as a business owner listening to this, that you could bolt into your business, what the criteria would look like, what I would look at. And it's certainly an area that I want to get involved in next year, of buying businesses, taking shareholdings in businesses, whether it's partnerships or whether it's taking the whole entity and then turning that business around and growing it and scaling up or bolting into all the other stuff that I've got going on. So I think it's a really pivotal episode to listen in, because this could be something that you come across in 3-6 months. There might be an opportunity, an owner or a motivated seller that you think back to this episode and you think, fuck, I could do this. This is an opportunity for me. So listening carefully. So there is a lot of shysters in this world. Typically when someone wants to sell a business or they're thinking about selling it, they go to the nearest broker they can get. The broker then promises them a price that's impossible to achieve. They give them a really highly inflated value because that broker just wants to earn commission on selling that deal, and he wants to secure that deal, because what they do is they lock the business owner into a contract and say, if you sell the business within the next year, I get a commission. They want to control the deal, so they'll give the owner what they want to hear, an inflated price. The owner signs a contract with that broker, and then typically it can sit on the market for years. Nothing moves, nothing happens. And, no one really wins. That's not really the ideal criteria for the business owner. The business owner wants to get the right deal that works. And obviously as a buyer, you need to be paying the right prices for something. As a business person and a business to business relationship or transaction, you're not going to pay more for what the business is worth, or you're over leveraging and paying too much cash for it and it's just not profitable. It's just not viable for the business and the debt ratio and stuff like that to look at. So there is an opportunity there for more common sense, business people working with business people. Ultimately, these 55 to 70-year-olds, they've been in business a long time. They're not stupid people. What it needs is more common sense approach from people like us in our generation, in the 30s to 40s, to take those business owners and do a deal that's right for the owner, but it's also right for you to plug in as well, so it's viable and it's going to happen. Because what I think is that the biggest driver for an older business owner is not just about the money. Yes, money has a consideration, don't get me wrong, but it's actually more about handing that business over to the right person that they know they've got trust and faith in. They're going to look after that business, going to look after their staff and what they've built up, their brand, their reputation, and move it forward in the right way. I think that's actually probably a bigger driver than the cash for someone that's at the end of their line, the end of their journey of earning money, if you like, and business and entrepreneurship, whatever way you want to put it. I think that's more important to that business owner, and that's the types of deals that you want to be doing, and that's the types of people you want to be working with. So if you buy the business in the right way, you can literally bolt on growth. You know, if you've got a business doing $1 million now and you buy another business doing $1 million already and you plug it into your existing outfit, you've literally doubled overnight, which you will know yourself as a business owner. Probably took a long time to get to that first $1 million mark. So you can really speed up the whole progress and the whole journey of what you're doing by bolting on the right business, because you're buying revenue if it's done in the right way. And obviously the owner gets a great deal because they've got security that they're selling the business, like I say, to someone who knows what they're doing first and foremost. They've got the experience, they've been in the industry, and they've got faith that the deal's going to happen as well, especially when you're doing a creative deal where that business owner that you're buying the business from or the interest from, you might be doing a creative deal where they're getting paid over time as well. And the benefits of doing that is obviously one, cash flow for you as the person, the business owner buying the business, but there's a lot of tax benefits as well for the seller by staging payments as well, so they're not getting all the lump in one, and it's just a bit more efficient. So there's loads of creative ways of doing it, but I think done right, I think it's a fantastic move, you know, because ultimately no one wins if someone just has a business and closes the doors, or they let it go to rack and ruin because they've lost interest, they've lost a desire, they haven't kept up with the modern ways, and you know the business is actually just dwindling like year over year. You know, it's not actually growing, it's not moving forward. Really, that is the worst case scenario, that you just shut the doors and you tell the staff one day to go home. And equally, you know, if the business is put on the market and it's at the wrong price and it's too high expectations, me or you listening to this isn't going to buy that business because it just doesn't make sense. So no one wins. Whereas if we do it in the right way and we take a proactive approach, you can create really good win-win scenarios. Everyone wins, and it's a good deal for everyone. And that's what I like to do. I like to create deals that works for everyone. The right people are in the right places, and it's just going to actually happen and come to fruition. So really, what we want to be looking for from our side as business people today, in the age of 30s to 40s, or maybe a little bit younger, looking at other businesses to buy, what we need for the transaction is a motivated seller. We need someone who's ready to hand over that business, sell the business, get out of it, and actually do a deal. You know, you need someone who's got a motivation because they want to retire, they want the business to survive, they want the business to grow, and they understand it's not for them anymore. We need that motivation, because if you're trying to buy a business from someone who's flying, doing really well, the business is really profitable, they don't want to sell the business just yet, they're not in that place, you're never going to be able to create a really good deal, because they've got no motivations to do that. They're not, unless you offer them a really high, stupid price that they'd be stupid to say no to, you're not going to have that motivation to actually sell it. So what we need as business people is motivated sellers. We need people that, it's not just about the money, we need people that understand that there is a better route rather than just closing the doors, and it's a route for them to retire, it's a route for them to get their last bit of cash out of the business, it's a route for them to do the sensible deal and do the sensible thing by the company and by the staff that's in that company, and they're motivated to do that. But first and foremost, if you haven't got a motivated seller, you're never going to create a great deal. It's always going to be a deal more in their favour and just doesn't stack up viably and commercially, and you're just going to lose money and waste money on buying the wrong business. So they have to be the right motivated seller. And then really it's going to come down to, well, what's the business worth? You know, and really, what is it worth to you? If you're buying a competitor, it might be worth slightly more than you, the market value or what it's worth. But if it's not, you know, you've got to look at it just very sensibly and go, right, what's the business actually worth? And one, is there a team in place, or is it owner operated? Because if the business is reliant purely on the owner and you remove that owner from the business, is it all going to crumble when he's gone or she's gone? You know, what's the setup of the business? Because if it is owner operated, it's not really worth anything. You're really taking over the burden from that owner, and you're taking the chance of maybe having some winners and clients staying with you, or some infrastructure, some plant, machinery, whatever it might be. But if there's no team in place, it's not likely going to be a great deal. There's got to be some sort of setup there in the office, so there is a commercial value to that business. And that commercial value, if there is a team in place and there's profitability in the company, you know, it's making a decent net profit every year, the construction industry is typically a 5 times multiple. So if you've got 100 grand's worth of net profit at the end of each year, and it's a steady business, you know, there's not massive debts that counteract that, there's not massive liabilities on the company that counteract that. if there's a solid 100 grand net profit, it's likely that the highest achievable is going to be like 5 times that net profit. So you're likely to pay 500 grand for that business. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that contribute to that. And some of the big things you're going to be looking at is really the risk reward of that commercial value. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs to it, but ultimately a business is worth what someone's willing to pay for it and be in the right deal. So the ideal business to buy, and how I would look at things and how I'm looking at businesses going forward, is really I want to buy a business that's at least been operating for 10 years. You know, it's got track record, it's got goodwill in the marketplace, it's got older clientele. Because you've got to remember, if you're buying a business from someone who is 50 or in that 50 to 75-year-old age gap, they are likely to have customers in that age gap as well. So they're probably not going to be as switched on to social media. They're more switched on to reliability. That's the guy they phone. That's the people they use. You've got to think about this as well. So really, if you're buying a business that's at least 10 years old, you know there's great track record, there's great will in the marketplace. It's proven that it's a steady, solid business that runs. It's not just a business that's been running for a year and there's just low, chance of it actually being a really successful outfit. So if you know it's been going 10 years, something's being done right there. There might be a lot to improve, but something has been done right. Like I say, you want the owner that's in the 50s and plus. You want them that they want to get out, they want to retire, they want to hang up their boots. That's the person you're going to create a good deal with. And then you want to be looking at the infrastructure. What's actually in place in the business? What key staff are in place? Which staff do what roles? Are they overpaid? Are they underpaid? Does that infrastructure need changing? Is there an office location? Is there assets within the business? Which can be creditors. It could be owed money. Cash in the business. What's the actual position of the business? This is all going to have factors on the business, because sometimes it can be a great business, but there's no cash in it, and it's just running, robbing Peter to pay Paul every single month because it's just a fight. Cash in the business is an asset of the business. And then obviously there's things like fixed assets as well, things that the business might own, like premises, plant, machinery, tooling, vans, anything like that has got a value to it, because you might be able to restructure those assets to release more cash. Particularly if you've got an office premises, there might be a low mortgage on it. It might make more sense to raise more good debt on that property, get more cash into the business so you can grow it and build it out. It might be that there's old machinery that you're better off selling or refinancing that asset fund, because you can asset up to 70%, I believe. And just making the business more palatable, so there's more cash, there's more stuff flowing. Looking at every single angle of what can make the business in a better position longer term for cash flow, profitability, and just speed of delivery and growth and all sorts of bits that you're going to be looking at. But there's loads and loads of ways of looking at it in that way. And then obviously you want low liabilities. If you're buying a business with massive liabilities, it owes HMRC a load of money. It owns, secured loans on the business. There might be bounce back loans from COVID. There might be bad debts. Any sort of liabilities. You've got to understand all of those liabilities as well, because on the face of it, the business might be doing really well, but there's a lot of liabilities that you're then taking over, which ultimately is going to affect the commercial value of that business. It's no good having a business that's really profitable, but the debts on it far exceed the profits for the next 5 years, because the business has been managed wrong in the last 5-10 years and stuff's built up. So all that's got to take a massive consideration. And really then you've got to look at it and go, well, can you plug it into your operation? Because if you're buying one business, and let's say the business you're buying has got an infrastructure there, a team of an office manager, a quantity surveyor, a project manager, whatever it might be, but you've already got that in place and you can just consume that, you might be able to reduce the cost and the expenditure in that business, because you're consolidating costs. You only need one accountant. You don't need 2 on 2 businesses. You only need likely one bookkeeper. You don't need 2 in 2 businesses. So you've got to look at it from that point of view as well, of going, well, if we reduce costs, or are we going to actually have to increase costs because there's a lack in the business? Maybe the business has been reduced and held back because there's not enough staff within it. These are all massive factors to really think about, and it's opportunities to do a right deal. And obviously, for a business that is owned by a 50, 70-year-old, it's likely, might not be the case, but more than likely, it's going to be a bit behind on the times. It's probably going to be a bit behind in terms of the power of social media, automation, technology that speeds jobs up, that there might be people in jobs that might not necessarily be needed because there's easy technology, there's easy software, there's just easy improvements of just the nature of like how things have moved, and times are different. A lot of businesses, they're stuck in the old ways, and this is the sweet spot of actually the youth coming into this and actually going, right, how do we make this business a lot smarter, a lot easier, a lot more efficient, a lot more profitable, plug it in to your business or another arm of what you're currently doing, and really create a win-win deal for the owner, saying, well, based on what you've got, I can improve X, Y, and Z. So let's do a deal. Let's give you a chunk of money that you need. Let's work out the right creative structure and do the handover. And it's just a smarter way of doing it. And obviously a massive thing these days is culture as well. A lot of companies they're stuck in the old ways as well, running, how they work with staff, how they reward their staff, the setup of the business, just the total vibe has changed a lot. It's changed a lot in probably the last 10 years. The whole equality thing, the whole how people work from home now, there's been a massive shift. So you imagine someone's owned a business for 30, 40 years. Their company could be stale as anything. It's just not gone with the times whatsoever. So there could be a massive opportunity to really change the culture. And again, this all just comes down to the value of that business and what it could be. And really the businesses to avoid, you really don't want to be approaching businesses or trying to do deals with business owners that there's more than 3 shareholders. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of people to satisfy and make happy. It's going to be a lot easier to do a deal with someone who owns the business 100% themselves. You're dealing with one person. And really, you've got to think about that person, where they're going to be coming from psychologically. If they've owned that business for 30 years, they've probably got a lot of pride over that business. They've probably put a hell of a lot into it, a lot of tears, sleepless nights, as you will know, being a business owner listening to this. It takes it out of you. You take some shots, you have some wounds, you have some scars from stuff you've done in business. You've had good times and bad times. And that person's probably going to wear that quite, with an element of really strong pride on their shoulders. So they want to sell it to the right person. But you've got to meet their demands and their needs of them as a person. You can't be going in there lauding it up to that person, acting like the big I am. You've really got to be trying to work out the deal that's right for that person and understand, right, how do we do this? Because a lot of times people don't want to sell their business because it's the fear of judgment. They don't want the business to go under. They don't want to close the doors because they don't want to look like it's just closed its doors. A lot of the times, if you're dealing with an older owner, they're quite happy and palatable to having a discussion with someone that's behind closed doors and the deal's right and the staff get looked after, the company gets looked after. And they're securing that pride and they know and they've got that trust that the right person's going to take it over. But trying to do that with 3 or 4 people or multiple owners or other people with other interests, like a bank who's got a massive loan on that business and they've got a say in what happens with the business as well because they've taken a share and ownership. If you're trying to please too many people, it's going to take years to try and negotiate a deal. You really want a motivated single seller, someone who's owned it a long time, and have a really nice, genuine conversation with that person and go, well, what's important to you? How would you like to do this? And what way would you see this could work for you? And just throw ideas around the table and negotiate a really solid deal with that person. You really want to try and stay away from family-owned businesses, especially if there's 2 partners and 2 directors and it's husband and wife. You're trying to please both parties because they might have different viewpoints on what to do and how to do it. There's obviously a lot more emotion involved in family-owned businesses, especially if there's multiple generations in that business and the son still works in the business and he wants to take it over, but the dad's trying to sell it because the son's not good enough to run the business, or the daughter, or vice versa, and trying to get in the middle of that shitstorm of who the business should actually go to and the deal that should be done. And you just got to be very careful and aware of that it's going to be very difficult to negotiate with a family-controlled business. Other things to look out for is a high debt ratio on the business. You don't really want to be taking over a business and that's over 35%-ish. It depends on the business and the structure of what you can release out of the business to reduce that debt. But if the business is loaded with debt and over 35% ratio of what's coming in and over 35% of that is debt, you're probably going to be buying something that's got just too many headaches and too many problems for you to sort out. And this is what you want to be very careful of, is not buying a business that's more of a liability and not an asset. You want to be buying it with the views of, is this business an asset? Is there profit within that business? Are there improvements to be made in that business to plug into yours? just to make it, to make life easier and to get you ahead and bolting on revenue and profits. You don't want to be buying a massive headache. Some of the famous Dragon's Den, Theo Papitas, he's famous for buying businesses in really shit states. I wouldn't want to be doing that. That's not my personality type. He knows that market very well. Very rife in retail is what he's done it in, but he's typically bought businesses for £1 because they are up to their eyeballs in debt and in problems. But his expertise is in sorting that out because that's the industry he's in and he knows it. I don't think for you guys listening to this, and certainly for me, you want to be buying a massive problem that you're taking on a hell of a lot of stress and liability and just problems to solve. You don't want to be looking more that way. You want to find that middle ground of doing the right smart deal with a good business owner that wants to get out, and there's potential within that business to do it. Otherwise, you could just be buying a really complicated job, which is not really what you want. You want to be buying a business that's there ripe for the opportunity to improve it, and not buying a hassle and a load of headaches and loads of problems. Lastly, you don't want to be working with unrealistic sellers. Any seller that goes, well, I want 2 million quid, and the business turns over 150 grand, or has a net profit of 150 grand a year, and it's just a figure they want because that's the money they want and that's what they've been attached to their whole life, but the business has got no value to that. It's just an emotional, I want 2 million quid. You can't work with that. You're never ever going to get to a place with that. It's got to be a realistic seller, someone who can understand, the principles of business, of how you can make a deal work. And it's not just an emotional decision of going, well, I want 2 million quid to retire, so unless you pay me that, not a penny under, fuck off. You can't work with people like that. So it's got to be realistic sellers, and you've got to be a realistic buyer as well. And like I say as well, you don't want to be buying a business that's got no team in place and you're literally just buying a load of goodwill and maybes and ifs and whats and could be's, because it all relies on the business owner that you're buying it from, and take them out of it and it all starts falling down. And this happens a lot. This happens a lot. People take businesses over, they inherit businesses or they buy businesses, and 3-6 months down the line that business has gone pop because the wrong person's bought it and the wrong deal has been done in the first place to buy it, and it just doesn't work. Which really that is what you don't want. You really want to be buying a business and taking it in and plugging it into what you do. And where I think the value in doing this is, for you guys listening to this, especially if you're bigger businesses, you're doing multi-millions already, if you've got particular subcontractors that you use all the time and they're owned by older people, that's a fantastic opportunity and vehicle to negotiate a deal with that subby, because they're already supplying you as well. So you can actually then become one of the biggest customers to that business, and you're just building it into your empire and your group, if you like, because it makes logical sense. If you've got a business and you're spending 500 grand a year on a particular skill or subcontractor or package, and you can buy that business in, it just makes it commercially viable, because you know that you are the clientele, you're getting better deals, and the profit is shared within the group, and it's a great way of doing it. So it doesn't have to just be more of the business that you currently do. Like, for example, I come from a main contracting background, so there's a lot of different people that work underneath that main contracting background. There's plumbers, electrical, there's carpentry, there's floor laying, there's plastering, there's specialist works, there's all types and manners of stuff. So if you've got a main contracting business, it might make really good sense to buy up the smaller people that just work in your supply chain and your economy, and it's a fantastic deal, and you've got a great relationship with those people. So to keep an eye out for business opportunities, keep an eye out on, first and foremost, the older people that got businesses, a bit stressed out, bit sort of fed up with the business, looking at options, looking at subcontractors that are maybe a bit behind on payments for people, maybe not delivering quite as good as they used to be. Maybe there's an ill health in the family, maybe there's something that's happened, or there's a reason and stuff's changed that you've just particularly paid notice to, that there may be an opportunity there to have a conversation. And this is all it is, at this stage, you just got to be spotting the potential opportunities of that older seller who maybe would look to do a deal, and then opening a conversation about doing this and going, right, okay, well, how can we make this work, and look at all the potential ways of the business. And it's got to be a really good conversation, because you're going to need to be asking things like management accounts from people, finances, is there debt on the companies? This types of information is going to be very closely guarded by a lot of people. So first and foremost, if there is a potential opportunity that you come across or you see, or someone that could sell their business or wants to sell their business, You've just got to go to it with an open approach first and just ask the right questions and just be, a supportive, good, honest person who's having a genuine, open conversation before you start looking at any financials and any big stuff, and prying too deep into it. It's just a very initial conversation to begin with. Being, proactive and approachable and a good people person, of finding out the facts of that business and where it's at and where it's going and what the business owner wants and their stresses and what they're worried about. And then nibbling away at going, okay, well, let's get some proper information and let's move this along down the line. But I think this will be a massive opportunity. It's just the facts of the statistics. It's not an opinion based on gut feel. I do believe in my gut that is a great opportunity coming up in the next couple of years. But when you look at the facts and the statistics of the amount of businesses just owned by older people, these businesses have got to go somewhere. That something's got to happen with them. And think about it logically as well. All the staff that work for those businesses, they all need job security. So you're doing a massive benefit for everyone. Everyone wins. You bolt on revenue, you get into a new vehicle and improve it. The owner gets out in the right way where he gets money, he gets relief, the burden is taken away, and he knows that his business is being looked after by the right person who's got the experience and got the skill set to do that. And then the staff get to secure their job and they get an owner that comes in who's more proactive, wants the company to grow. You can reward those staff more and you're keeping the economy going. And I think it's a massive benefit for absolutely everyone. There is huge opportunity coming. So you've just got to have your eyes open and be switched on to those people and, have these conversations. So when you see those opportunities and things that come up, or if you know that someone has got a business they want to sell, by all means, drop me a line on Instagram at Dean Barton Real. This is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm looking to do next. Is do this and use my skills basically of what I've done already and just plug that in, grow a really good team and keep growing businesses. So that is it for this episode, guys. I hope that has been a useful one for you to go, wow, there could be something there, and just keep your eyes open because you just don't know. In 3 months, there might be an opportunity that creates and you might come back to this episode and listen to it again and go, what did he say about that? What did Dino say about that? Could be 6 months, could be a year. Or there might be someone now that you're thinking of and going, my uncle's got a business, my cousin's mate's got a business. All these opportunities could create, and until you hear about the potential of what you can do, you don't know it exists. So I hope it's been useful. Like I say, drop me a line on Instagram if you've got a business opportunity or something to invest in. I'm open to any opportunity that can come up or be available on the market. It's at Dean Barton Real on Instagram, and I'll see you on the next one.